CHistrue, continuing with my philosophy of religion series. Again, something I don't usually talk about on this channel, but have decided to. Last video, in my God and Evolution video, and you really should watch the previous videos of this series in order to get a sense of where I come from. I stated that A, I do not believe that there's any human religion. I believe all human religions are human created. They all have a mixture of truth and falsehood. I believe that there's good and bad in all of them. I, however, distinguish myself from the atheist position, and I need to be honest about this, in the sense that atheists believe that God and evolution are incompatible. And since evolution is proven true, and it's been proven true multiple times, over and over again, through scientific evidence, that therefore there could be no God, QED. I do not accept their argument because it doesn't follow any proper logical form. For one thing, it operates as a reductionism in the sense that it assumes a priori that God and evolution are competing scientific answers to the origins of life and the origins of the universe, when in fact, under even the religions I don't agree with, meaning the kind of authoritarian, father-based, hierarchical religions, wouldn't argue that. And there's a lot imputed to those religions that they don't necessarily hold to. Even as I, again, do not agree with those religions, they're used to exploit the workers and to ensure obedience. But on the other hand, even those religions that are used in that way are going to have a benevolent aspect to them. And if you simply say that, such as, well, for instance, there's the Marxist argument that all religion is created by the ruling class to oppress the worker, and then there's the more biological determinist argument that it's some part of our brain that emerged through natural selection. The only problem is that neither can really explain the more benevolent, more wisdom and compassion-oriented aspects of all the world's religions. So if it didn't emerge through natural selection, which tends towards an individualism, well, actually it can tend towards group selection, but the group selection it tends toward is us and them. And those such as Gandhi who went beyond us and them, I don't think it can explain that very easily. And by the way, that Gandhi and the going beyond us and them, to me, is the next step in human evolution, which I come to that conclusion in that video. It's the next step in my opinion, my personal belief, my personal spirituality. I cannot prove it, but in my personal spirituality, it's the next step in the evolution of all carbon-based life, not just humans. And in the case of the Marxist argument, yeah, I accept a lot of it, that religion is implemented by the ruling class to shape the mind and to legitimate obedience, but then I would have to, again, explain Gandhi. I would have to explain the Quakers. I would have to explain something that doesn't seem to rationally emerge from that. So, I believe in the end that the great mystery of the divine is something that all life ultimately is part of. Where I would differ from, let's say, so I understand those of you who are atheists, you're not going to be particularly happy with that. I hope you'll continue to watch my channel, but that's the conclusion that I've come to. On the other hand, I'm more in your camp than I am necessarily in a lot of the camp of the religious, because a lot of the religious will, well, for instance, there are all kinds of videos out there on, I've been interested in Gaia and the idea of the Earth as a living organism lately, but I don't accept a lot of the kind of New Age, mystical, go beyond the science arguments. And then there are the more formal religious videos. They're kind of Christian-based videos who talk about Satan unleashed on the planet and how Henry Ford was really possessed by Satan and he was a Freemason and he invented the internal combustion engine to release oil into the atmosphere and warm the planet and set the stage for Armageddon. And also, I guess oil dependency would set the stage for Armageddon. I haven't seen a video like that, but I assume that one's probably out there. So There's a lot of crazy stuff in the name of religion. I try to approach it from a reason and rational-based perspective, although not necessarily rationalist. And you cannot avoid the truth of Darwinian evolution. And, to be very clear, you also cannot avoid the fact that it contains a lot of pain and suffering. And so here's the question. It's an updated form of the question that David Hume asked, and other philosophers have asked. If indeed we presuppose an all-good God, then why is there suffering? Because the all-good God is also omnipotent and could have prevented that. And so, for those who don't accept evolution, they would still accept that there's suffering in the world. But for those such as myself, who obviously acknowledge that the Earth is really, really, really not 6,000 years old, then it's really a whole lot older than that. Then there's the question of the suffering involved in the evolutionary process. If the teleology of evolution is this next step, where life goes beyond us and them, life goes to greater and greater compassion, to the all, not to the singularity of the computer folks, but to the real thing that Teilhard was talking about, not this kind of fake corporate thing. Why couldn't God have just created that right away, I guess is the question, without going through billions of years. Now the billions and billions thing I don't think is such a problem, because if you posit a God beyond time, a billion years to us is nothing. But the question of suffering is a lot more of a valid question. I just had a friend die. This friend was a very good person. Why did God let my friend die? When I could think of many other names that I would rather have had. It's not very nice, but it's the truth. I could think of many other names. And so the best answer that I have for that is that there is, I think, an answer that would come from the Thomistic tradition within Catholicism. I'm not Catholic, but I respect this answer. And that is that there is a nature, and that nature must be followed. God has a nature to respect free will. Not just of humankind, but of the entire universe. In other words, and here's the kicker, this may be the teleology. It may be the teleology in the sense of the most ideal evolution. But if God respects the free will, not just of humankind, but of all animals, all plants, of the universe, and does not interfere with the evolutionary process in the greatest sense of the word, and we can even go to Smolin and the idea that the universe itself is part of a bigger evolutionary process. Smolin's probably an atheist, but neither here nor there. I can respect what he says. This is quite probably true. That if there is a respect there, then it may be that it's not destined to happen, that it's not determined to happen, that our actions matter, that there's a respect for the free will of seemingly finite human beings to choose love, to choose compassion. I failed to do this in my own life on multiple occasions. And if you're out there and you're one of these folks that I failed to do that with, I'm sorry right now. I apologize to you. I've been one of these people who's been socially isolated in my own thing. And to live this philosophy I'm talking about, I'm going to take a step outside of that. But I know I've hurt people by being inside of it. So for you now, if you're watching, I apologize. And it's exactly that personal action that would be the step to that next step in human evolution and the evolution of life itself. Is it unscientific? Perhaps. It might be. It might be that I'm wrong. But if there's any faith that empowers us to act as free human beings in an equal community, the faith that if Emma Goldman and various radicals who were atheists had heard it, maybe they would have accepted and said, yeah, I could go with that. Then it's probably that. So I'm not going to preach or proselytize on this channel, but that is a faith that I have. It's not based on miracles. It's not based on the supernatural. It's based on love. CHistrue. Over.